the things that I wanted to talk about tonight is this concept of realtors versus investors. It's kind of like, oh gosh, somebody help me with this. Godzilla versus King Kong. Is that what it was like? Is that what it was? Yeah, that's what it feels like. How many investors in the room feel like realtors versus investors is like Godzilla versus King Kong? Yeah, okay. Some of you guys have some experience there, right? So I want to just describe what that looks like from my perspective. And before I do that, I will have to disclose to you guys that I am a licensed realtor and broker in the great state of Texas, license number 0518223. I'm not your realtor, and don't sue me. So now that we've got that cleared up, I think we're good to carry on. But there's always what I'll call a constant battle going on between realtors and investors. And what I've found is there is hatred on both sides in some cases. Now, this may be a little hyperbole, all right, so I'll take that. But I found this to be the case always. Now, one of the reasons why I found that realtors, and hate is a strong word, but I'll say dislike investors is because the investors, what kind of offers as investors do we give realtors and instruct them to go and give off to the sellers? Some people say low ball offers, right? And then what do realtors say when what does your realtor say when you hand them that low ball offer? Do they say, oh yes, let me go and submit this right away. I can't wait to do it. I'm going to really sell this one really hard. Or do they say, oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassing. I can't even show this person won't even take me seriously. How am I going to be seen, right? So they're not necessarily putting their fiduciary duty in terms of representing you as their buyer client first. A lot of times they are putting how they feel, and they want to protect their reputation along the way. And I will say, and I'm just curious, just by raise of hands, how many realtors in the room? Who are my other co-realtors? Yeah. Okay. So how many of you guys have dealt with an investor who's like basically sending you 10 houses a day to do CMAs on and just giving you another full-time job, right? And it's like, well, that would be fine if they made an offer that could stick on one of these properties, right? But a lot of times they're making offers, and it's like, okay. So let me give you the scoop on this. So the seller just listed their house yesterday for $400,000. The seller had 25 showings just this morning, and they have 23 offers in hand. We're in a multiple offer situation. They listed it for $450, and you want me to give them an offer for $300? I'm sorry, like what, right? So these are some things that happen, right? So realtors get tired of doing those constant CMAs, making those, in some cases, lowball offers, and kind of doing a job that feels like a dead-end job, looking for what's a needle in the haystack, which is typically that property that's the good deal on the MLS. So, and I'll just kind of give you a news break. Last month, properties on the MLS sold for about 101 to 102% of list price. So what that means is if it was listed for 100, it sold for 101 or $102,000, okay? So the needle in the haystack typically does not exist, at least in the market that we're in right now, on the MLS, right? So, but a lot of brand new investors, and these are the ones who kind of who very quickly burn out that relationship with realtors, are looking for those and trying to make offers that may not stick. And what's the other bonus? I don't know about you guys, but also as a realtor, I have had another investor try to go around me to go and work with a seller directly. Okay, that's another little issue that we see happening that kind of gives a realtor a bad taste in their mouth. Now, on the other side of that, and so even though I am licensed, I haven't listed a house in, gosh, probably 6 or 7 years. So I just have my license for my own real estate investing and not to do work with any other buyers or sellers other than to purchase property for myself. Now, so on the other side of this, many investors hate realtors or strongly dislike realtors because they won't do the things that they're asked. They won't do their job and be in that role of fiduciary duty to them. So meaning they're not making those low ball offers, they're not making those creative offers. and or they're not answering all of the endless questions. So some of you realtors who have worked with new investors have answered some of those endless questions by some of those new agents. And then how many for you guys who are just investors have worked with a realtor who said, you can't do that, or that's illegal, or insert objection here that stops that relationship. So this is kind of the origin story of the realtor investor battle. So what is our job? How do we overcome this? What do we do here? So I'll tell you that the solution, and this is not the best solution, but this is a solution I see a lot of people implement, is that a lot of new investors will decide and maybe say to themselves, oh, well, if that's going to be a problem, then maybe I should go do what? Maybe I should go and get my license, right? Maybe I should go and get my license. And a lot of people will think that if you go and get your realtor's license, it's going to help you what? Understand real estate. Okay. So again, so I'm going to do another little poll in here. So I asked a second ago how many were realtors. I'm going to ask you guys for the ones who are realtors, and this is going to be a long hand raise. So just roll with me here. I know it's going to be hard. So if you have to do this, that's okay. But again, raise your hand if you're a realtor. Raise your hand if you're a realtor. Okay, hold your hand up. If you learned anything, keep your hand up if you learned anything about real estate investing in realtor school. If you did not learn anything about real estate investing in realtor school, put your hand down. All right, so how many of you guys were thinking, I might go and become a realtor so I can learn things about real estate investing? Okay, yeah, I don't know if some of you guys surveyed the room and looked around when I did that exercise, and I've done this exercise a few times. So, they say when you're speaking from the front of the room, don't ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Usually somebody surprises me, it's like, oh, well, I will, it's like, okay, whatever. You're the one guy who learned something about real estate investing in realtor school. But what most people find is, it's a lot like, going to school, which is you learn how to pass a test. Which is really not going to get you ultimately to where you want to be. And the actual result, again, comes after spending 180 hours of your life to go to realtor school and to get that license. Now, going back in the time machine, when I got licensed, you could sign up for all of your courses and finish them all at the same time. The new way that you're licensed, I was just kind of reading up on this as I was preparing this presentation today, is they only let you take, I think, one class at a time, and you have to take at least 3 days to finish each one of those single classes. So even if you did kind of back to back those 180 hours, I think it was something like it would take you at least 18 days, something like that, to do it. And then they have their ways to make it even go longer than that, is what I found as well. And then at the end of that, you come out thinking, oh wow, I just learned how to pass a test. And so when I was in realtor school, I had to learn how many cubic yards of cement it took to pour a 2-car driveway. Seriously. Yeah, it was on the test. You know how many times I have used that math and that calculation in my realtor job? That'd be the square root of 0, my friends. Like that's what you're gonna see in realtor school. And then I don't know how many of you guys are English is not your first language. English is not your first language. This and then so some of you guys that are also realtors and brokers in the room. This is like, if English is not your first language, and I don't want to intimidate you guys, from doing this if you want to, but it is like a series of like double negatives, like triple negatives. It's like, I felt like, are they testing me if I can read and write English right now? Like, I mean, it was like, that felt like the other part of the test. If you're a realtor right now, raise your hand if you felt the same way when you were doing it. Yeah, so it was very odd from that standpoint. So just be aware, and again, I'm not trying to, to tell you, you can calculate out the double negatives, but it was just a strange thing to be able to find. And then as a bonus, after you get licensed, you get to do what? Go right back and take more education. So roughly in that first 2 years, up to 98 additional hours of education that's required in order to keep your license. And then as a bonus, you get through all that education, and then when you're in realtor school, and again, I'll ask you guys to raise your hands again, just so the people who are considering realtor school can hear and see this too. So raise your hand if you're a realtor. Now, tell me, pull your hand down if you felt like, wow, they scared me away from doing anything in real estate, especially investing, after they told me every single story in realtor school. Does anybody feel like that? Take your hand down if you felt like that. You did not. Okay. So literally, like I like the person who's teaching one of my classes was like, well, I heard of a realtor one time, and she walked out of her house and she got sued. What are you even saying? Like, it's like they're just trying to scare you to do, about all these different things that kind of go wrong. So, and then one of the big things that you find out as you get through realtor school is you have a lot of disclosure requirements as a realtor versus as a non-licensed investor. So that means information about broker services, that means consumer protection notice, that means disclosing that you're a realtor on the first substantive conversation, that means writing that you are a realtor on page 5 of the contract, that means working with your broker. You gotta hope that you got a good broker who will allow you to do any real estate investing on top of that. And just being worried that you're going to lose your license or going to get sued the entire time you're doing it. So that's what I felt when I was in realtor school, and I've talked to a lot of realtors who have kind of said, yeah, I kind of got that same vibe and energy and training as well. So just know that that's the case. Know that that's the case. But for those of you guys who are saying, but I still want to, I think I still want to do it, or I'm going to get on, and for those of you guys who are like, okay, yeah, no, I'm totally out, but I still know that I need a realtor, I'm going to solve this problem for you guys tonight as part of this presentation. So I want to share a couple other things with you. Realtors, where do they get paid? They get paid on page 2 of the HUD-1 settlement statement, also known as the closing disclosure statement, okay? Where do investors get paid? That would be on page 1 of the HUD closing disclosure statement. Where is all the money made? That would be on page 1. Where are all the scraps picked up? That would be on page 2, okay? So sometimes I see a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to be an investor, so I'm going to go to realtor school, and they realize that they're picking up the scraps, right? So on a typical transaction where you're selling, a $600,000 house, for example, in the Dallas area, as a real estate investor, if you bought it right using the real estate investor formula, 70% of ARV minus repairs, you're probably going to make somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 on that deal, okay? Versus the realtor is going to make $18,000 on that deal, 3% of that $600,000. Which sounds better to you? I can pull out the scale. I bring one with me. Keep it handy, right? So I mean, I know some people will say, well, I want to, I want to save money. Okay, great, right? You're going to save money being a realtor. Let me know how it feels after you put in 280 hours of realtor school in your first year of joining, right? It's going to feel like you're instead wasting more time. And some of you guys may say, well, I still want to be a realtor because I want access to this, like, MLS, all of these properties. Who's thinking that? Right? Yeah, a lot of people want to go to realtor school. I want access to those properties, right? Or I want access to the comps. I want to share with you, so I love the study of cognitive biases. Who else are my nerds in here who love to study about cognitive biases? Thanks for making me feel totally alone, except for you, ma'am. I appreciate that. She's like, I'm just going to raise my hand like this. She's like, I'm not even going to, if she doesn't notice me, that's okay. She can just like tell this cognitive bias. I'm all ears, but I'm not. So one of my favorite, there's like 278 cognitive biases. And probably one of my favorite ones is one of my least favorite ones, because there's nothing to be favorited in there, because there are all these different like heuristics, all these different ways that we make our decision making simple, so we don't use all this brain power in our head to make all these complex calculations and decisions, right? So we can just kind of be on autopilot. And so there are all kind of ways that we, in some cases, punch our own selves in the face by taking a shortcut. Is that a fair way to say it? Okay. That's a technical PhD definition of it. I'll let some of you guys who are more savvy re-explain that. But so none of them are favorites. This is probably one of my least favorite as it applies to real estate, as it applies to real estate investors. And it is something called the searchlight principle, or the drunkard's effect. So the way this story goes, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but a gentleman is a little inebriated, is on his hands and knees in a park, and he's searching for his keys. And a police officer walks up and says, "It's the middle of the night. What are you doing?" And the drunk said, "Well, I'm searching for my keys, officer. I'm not driving tonight. I'm walking to my house, but I need to be able to find my keys just to unlock the door." And so the police officer says, "Okay, I'm here to protect and serve. Tonight I serve." The police officer got on his hands and knees and started searching around for the keys with this drunk. After about 20 minutes, the police officer said, "We've searched this place, up, down, sideways, high and dry. Are you sure you left your keys over here?" And the drunk said, "What?" "There you go." "No, I think I left my keys over there. But the light is so good right here that I decided to search here." Okay. The searchlight effect, the drunkard's principle, applies to you guys as real estate investors. How is that? You're going to the light. Where do we, as a new investor, where do we think the light is? In the MLS, right? But where is your deal? It is in some dirty, dank, awful, disgusting alley. It's not where the light is. Yes? That's a good story, right? I had you guys like, "Oh yeah, I'm listening to this. What's the drunk going to do next?" So number one, I don't want you to pick up the scraps. Number two, I don't want you to get kind of pulled in by that heuristic, that cognitive bias that I'm going to search where the light is, because that's not really where your deals are, right? All right, so I've told you I'm going to solve this. I'm on the way to solve it. The moral of the story, and what's important for you guys to know. In order to be a successful real estate investor, you have to. There is no question, there's no going around this. There's no passing go without an investor-friendly realtor on your power team. There's no being a successful real estate investor without having a great investor-friendly realtor on your power team. Period, end of story. But that investor-friendly realtor does not have to be you, okay? Are there a ton of realtors in this DFW market? I want to say, does anybody know how many there are exactly in DFW? I want to say it's around 40,000. Okay, I think that's about right. It could be more than that. I'm curious if some of you guys want to Google that up for me and let me know. But you don't have to be both the agent and the investor, right? You don't have to do everything, right? You just have to be, and I will say this about all the things that you do. Everything we do, it needs to get done. It just doesn't need to be done by the rainmaker. And let me tell you guys something. As real estate investors, you are the rainmakers. You don't have to do everything else. You don't have to lay sheetrock. You don't have to lay tile. You don't have to re-roof a house, right? That has to be done. Someone has to put a property in the MLS and do some research for you. That has to be done. It just doesn't have to be done by you. The rainmaking activities are the activities that when you are in front of a homeowner, okay? That's all you need to be doing. That's all you need to be thinking. And I will tell you, there are plenty of unemployed, if they're not employed technically, they're contractors, or underemployed realtors out there. There are plenty of unemployed or underemployed realtors out there, okay? Do you guys know how to find an unemployed or underemployed realtor out there? Would you like to know how? Yeah. Do you guys have the Uber app? Yeah. 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 Okay. This is the part of where the crowd is like murmur, 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 murmur. I guarantee you, 1 out of every 5 Uber drivers is also a realtor. If you are a realtor and an Uber driver, will you raise your hand? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Or Lyft. I mean, whatever, yeah. I mean, it's like, I literally, like, I have gone out of a Real Estate Investor Association meeting one night, I'll never forget, and I called an Uber. I was going out with friends. I want to leave my car at the hotel, and I called an Uber, and you know, here comes this car. It rolls up, and it has this, like, "We Buy Houses" sign on there, and I'm like, oh, well, that must be somebody from my meeting who has the same car, and I'm you know, sitting there, and you can see it's like, you know, the Uber's talking to you, and you're talking to the Uber, or, you know, he's like, I'm here, and I'm like, well, I'm here. And it's like, it's like, oh, this is the same guy, right? So realtor, Uber driver, Bitcoin trader, you know, whatever it is. So yes, I mean, like, these things happen. So Craigslist, you know, these people are out there. So if there are roughly 40,000 well, and I'll just round it to 50,000. Just if there are roughly 50,000 realtors that are licensed in the North Texas market, and if 100,000 transactions closed last year in North Texas, what does that tell you? Each realtor has maybe 2 listings. You're picking up scraps. So don't pick up the scraps. Find somebody else to do that for you. Who already needs to be picking up the scraps. And